Welcome, everyone. Let's call to order this council meeting of April 5th, 2022. Jeff, would you do a pledge of allegiance for us, please? And would everyone unmute their mics, except for Jeff?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Donna, will you do a roll call, please?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember McDowell,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Here.
Councilmember Gutierrez,
Here.
Councilmember Bode.
Here.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schmidt,
Here.
Councilmember Peterson. I do not see her. And Mayor Inesco.
Here.
And I don't see Councilmember Peterson. Oh, here she is. There's some waiting to be let in. Councilmember Peterson, I'm doing roll call.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, that's everyone. Does the council have any late changes to the agenda tonight? Nope. All right, at this time, I would like to remind the members of the public they can make comments during public comment period as well as any item listed on the business agenda or action agenda. When making public comment, you will need to raise your hand electronically on the Zoom app, state your full name and whether you reside within the city limits, Mason County, or elsewhere. Option 1, join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link that is displayed on the city's web page. The link is listed on the agenda and minutes page under the tab that says more. Option 2, email City Manager Jeff Knighton. And option 3, call Jeff's office phone. Both the email address and phone number are displayed on the screen of Mason Web TV streaming video. Do any council members have any board reports to share tonight? All right, moving on. Has the council had a chance to review the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as published?
I will move to accept the consent agenda as published.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as published. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, our next item is a proclamation declaring April as Child Abuse Prevention Month. And I will read the proclamation. Whereas the city of Shelton recognizes our future rests in the hands of our most vulnerable and cherished assets, our children. And whereas all children deserve to live in a safe, stable, and nurturing environment which promote their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse, neglect, and other trauma are recognized as serious public health problems affecting both the current and future quality of life in our community. And whereas it is a responsibility of our community to ensure parents, caregivers, and other adults who influence the health and well-being of our children to have the support, knowledge, and concrete resources necessary to ensure all children thrive to their greatest potential. And whereas effective children abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships among agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement agencies, healthcare providers, and the business community. And whereas we, as the City of Shelton residents, continue our commitment to protecting all members of our community and call upon all citizens to join together to increase public safety and prevent further abuse and neglect of our children. Now, therefore, the Shelton City Council does hereby proclaim April 22nd as Child Abuse Prevention Month in the city of Shelton and urges all citizens, communities, state agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, medical providers, educators, and businesses to increase their participation in efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the community in which we live. And I believe that Shelley Willis has some comments for us.
Thank you. Shelley Willis, Director of Nonprofit called Family Education and Support Services. I live in Lilywop, Washington, and our office is located on Johns Prairie Road. I am thrilled to be here to thank you for recognizing child abuse prevention strategies. The pinwheel is the national symbol of child abuse prevention, and I hope you'll be seeing these all around the county. We planted a bunch at Neyland Park, but I think the wind may have gotten us yesterday. They'll be back, we hope, very soon. I hope you'll just help us promote child abuse prevention, and thank you again.
Thank you, Shelley. All right. Donna, do we have anybody interested in public comment tonight?
Let me take a look here, Mr. Mayor. I see one hand up at this moment, and that is Dean Jewett. So Dean, you have 3 minutes to make your public comment, and I will let you know when the time is up.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you. Dean Jewett, Mason County resident, Shelton business owner. Obviously 3 minutes isn't going to be enough for me, as you probably all are aware. I would really like to see an in-person meeting start up. I do appreciate Jeff and your response to my my question to you as to some of the particulars on that. But if the schools can do it without the masks in a school environment, I'm not sure that why we can't, and maybe the community or maybe the council members can reconsider and have some consideration on that. I'd really like to have a conversation on the camping ordinance and the lack of enforcement for the street camping. If that needs to be rewritten, then we need to take a look at that. Apparently, I'm hearing that you have to have 3 violations in one particular vicinity before anything can be done. I would believe that would need to be changed. I have some concerns on your graffiti ordinance and then your camping on private land ordinance. It seems like some of that responsibility is laying on the property owners for both of those cases. We're treating a symptom. So what is the cause of that? What are these things and why do we have to do that? Maybe we should have some conversations on how those people are coming into town and why they're doing those things to our community. The downtown businesses are the core of our community. And it seems like we're the ones that are fronting and are having to deal with this increase. We have sidewalk camping going on right outside of Brewer Park on the sidewalk itself, not even in the park. And it takes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pictures and calls to get those taken care of. I know I had conversations with Chief Beeson on a situation that happened, and I was able to report that on your guys' app. And if you haven't seen what I'm talking about, I would encourage you to have a conversation with Chief Beeson and the code enforcement officer and take a look at that picture and take a look at what I had written about. Having a customer sit down and watch that type of a situation is unacceptable. So you guys are all part of our community just as I am, and I applaud you for your service. I do. So what can we do to take care of our downtown businesses and our core? Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Is there any other public comment?
Let me take a look here. I don't see anyone else with their hand raised electronically or just physically. So I believe we are finished for this period.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
Our first business item is regarding an EMS replacement levy. City Manager Jeff Knighton has details for us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. Tonight, we are presenting a resolution number 1227-0222, and that is for council to consider placing a replacement levy for emergency medical services on the August ballot. I believe the date is August 11th. But although I can double check on that for the election date. And this is simply a replacement ballot for the EMS levy that is currently part of the tax structure for property owners within the city. We are proposing the same amount, and voters have approved this EMS levy in 1998, 2004, every 6 years up through the state. And I think it's important to stress that we are not increasing the amount of the levy at all, or not requesting to increase the amount of the levy at all. Simply replacing what we currently have and have had for at least 6 years, potentially much longer than that, all the way back to the late 90s. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and would ask that you forward this to your April 19th agenda for further consideration.
Okay, let's go ahead and do public comment. Is there any public comment on this?
No, there isn't, Mr. Mayor.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move to place resolution number 122702222 on the city council action agenda for April 19th, 2022 for further consideration.
Second.
All right. Now it looks like Councilman or Deputy Mayor Schmidt has some questions or comments.
Just a quick question, and to reiterate, Jeff, if this were to not pass in August, the funds necessary for EMS services in the city would need to be made up from the general fund, correct?
That's
If
correct.
we're not passed.
That's correct. Approximately 350,000 per year. And that would need to be made up from other sources, and those other sources would have to be the general fund for any good governmental purpose. One thing I also failed to mention that I ought to have in my presentation was that city and the city council and city staff can only provide information. We cannot advocate for or advocate for any elected election measure. It's just important that we provide accurate and factual information to the citizens of our community.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1227-0222 on the city council action agenda for April 19th for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? That was an aye or an oppose. I
did not hear that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Aye.
is there any opposed? Motion carries. Community Development Director Mark Ziegler has information about a surplus of a structure on Fifth Street.
Good evening, council, mayor, deputy mayor. I'm sharing a screen with some photos. So tonight I'm bringing to you resolution number 1233-0322, which would declare the residential structure at 218 South Fifth Street as surplus to the city's needs. This is a residential structure that's been in the city ownership for over 20 years and is just to the east of Shelton Civic Center, just south of the gravel parking lot over there. The structure's been used for storage primarily. In my experience here, briefly after the city obtained it, there was a renter in that structure until such time that that wasn't needed anymore by that resident. So there's been little maintenance and repair done on the structure. Again, it's just been used for maintenance. And the need is really coming to light now to address the issue in the structure. I'll show you some pictures of the inside right now. It's got some water intrusion that you see on the walls here. Some rodents have been active in the structure. It's got no foundation on it. We have some significant rot under the structure on the post and beam structure, as well as the siding itself, and the roof structure is deteriorating. This is a side entrance from the alley. You can see the rot occurring inside the structure. Just more kind of representative photos of the current condition. Again, moisture intrusion, lack of heat in the structure. This slide shows the exterior condition, no paint, no gutters on the structure. You'll see the boards on the bottom kind of blocking entrance to the underside of the structure. Rodents or even individuals that might be seeking to enter the structure underneath. We have the unique opportunity to provide training exercises for our first responders with the approval of the surplus of this property. Our fire service, Central Mason Fire and Emergency, certainly has a need for practice burns. It's been over 2 years since they've run their firefighters through a practice burn. And our first responders down at the police department have the need to practice entry into structures that somebody isn't, occupied at that point, and that is not in jeopardy of creating damage that couldn't be fixed or paid for by the city. So through this process, staff has contacted Mason County Habitat for Humanity, Mason County Historical Society, and a couple salvage companies, including Earthwise and Second Use, for their interest in salvage of any of the materials on the site. And none of those entities have expressed interest in that. So at this point, I'm open to any questions. And if council so concurs, we'd place this on the action agenda on April 19th for further consideration.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have any public comment?
Let me take a look here, Mr. Mayor. No, we don't have any public comments.
All right, do we have a motion?
I move to place resolution number 1233-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 City Council action agenda for further consideration.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All right, questions or comments for staff? Councilmember Peterson.
Just a comment. First, I completely agree that this has gotten beyond its useful life, and if we're able to utilize it in a training exercise or some other manner, that seems like a good plan. It is, however, concerning to me that this is a city-owned building that is in such disrepair and condition, and so as we move forward on our capital improvement and facilities plans, I think it's going to be really important that we continue to work with staff to identify those properties that need our attention so that we don't let things get to a point where they are so far gone and beyond repair. And that's something that we have to be cognizant of in our budgeting and in our prioritization. So thank you, Mark, for giving us an opportunity to see how far gone this has gotten and proposing a solution to move us forward out of this.
Thank you. Councilmember McDowell.
Thank you, Mark, and your staff for going forward with this. That's a much needed burn down, if you want to call that. That was a very charming house in its day. And it's kind of sad to see that it got the way it is. And like Deidre said, we have to keep up on getting rid of these derelict buildings, just so people come into our city and say, well, we have such a pretty city, or we have a bad city because of the buildings. So thank you, Mark, for going forward with this. And I'll be anxious to watch the practice burn. That'll be fun.
All right, any other questions? Don't see any. We have a motion and a second to place resolution number 1233-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 City Council action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We now have an ordinance about sign regulation. City Manager Jeff Knighton has details.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. So the city team here has been analyzing proposed updates to the municipal code in various areas of the municipal code to ensure clarity and to make sure we're providing concise and succinct regulations that are easy for anybody to understand. I've heard often that reading development code or reading any other type of code makes your eyes cross, and I completely get that. So we're trying to make it easy enough, simple enough for anybody to pick it up and know exactly what we're driving at. And one of the things that we've been working on is the sign code. And this was presented to council as part of a study session. We've had quite a few conversations surrounding this topic with our stakeholder groups in the community. And we wanted to make sure we clearly expressed the direction and the desire that City Council would like to go. So one of the things we've updated from the initial draft that you saw is for temporary signs, for those teardrop or feather signs, to make them in the same category as any other type of temporary sign, so that they have to be maintained, they can't be falling over, those types of things, so they wouldn't be treated any differently. And we added a threshold value to the draft ordinance for requiring compliance with current code, so that some minor repairs and some things that may require a permit to do, as long as it is within 25% of the current value of the sign, then it would not be necessary to bring it into compliance with the current code. And the other thing that we clarified that there was a little bit of discussion on was that it has to be a permit issued by the city and not necessarily through L&I, who issues and inspects our electrical permits. So it has to be a city issued permit. That is the draft that you have in front of you. We have had a few other comments, and I'd like to have council consider these, and we can make changes at the council's discretion to this ordinance between now and when you consider this on your action agenda. So one of the things that was discussed with myself and other members of the team here is in relation to temporary signs, and that is under section 20.38.030E, and I believe that is on the 5th page of the draft ordinance you have in front of you. And that is requires 60 consecutive days for businesses. One of the things that was mentioned to me was some in the business community would like to change that 60 days to 90 days. And I wanted to present that to council for your consideration. The other part, see if I can find it here.
Jeff,
Yes.
what was the rationale for the extra 30 days?
Just that if a business is trying to open, that may be a help to a fledgling business to get them started and off the ground a little bit quicker than might otherwise be the case.
Got it. Sounds reasonable to me. Thank you.
And I want to make sure I'm representing this correctly, so I am going to read it if I can find it. I apologize for not having it up here. Okay, so there was an item with special events that were part of that same section, special events and time-based events. And we don't identify those. And there was a concern about the fundraising signs for the football team and for the baseball team as part of from Shelton High School. And I think that those would fall under the time-based event that's part of that same section 20.38.030 for the time limits, and that they be taken down within 48 hours after the event ends. And I just wanted to highlight that for council and see if there was any concern about that, or if council is fine with the way it's current, the regulations are currently drafted. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any public comments?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Peterson.
With regard to the special event signs, it does seem to me that 48 hours is a pretty tight turnaround. So if, for example, it's for the football season, last football game, I don't see them going out over the weekend to go retrieve those signs. Or if the farmer's market were to have a special function or event, or even the Chamber's Expo. So perhaps looking at a bit more reasonable time frame. I think it's important that we instruct folks to get those down in a decent amount of time, but maybe it's 2 business days, or maybe it's, 5 business days. I don't know. 48 hours seems pretty darn short to me.
But what's your suggestion, council member?
I would say at a minimum extending that to 2 business days instead of 48 hours. I think 5 business days would probably be more likely to happen. And even if we say 2, it's probably going to be longer than that. So I guess it's just a question of what the expectation is from the city for how quickly those get turned around.
I'm okay with that change if there's a couple more of you.
Okay, to 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a couple more people interested in that change?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Anybody else with questions for Jeff? I have a couple. So under 20.38.040 permanent signs for required exemptions, we have C, painting, repainting, or cleaning of a sign, or the changing of a message on an already permitted sign, unless structural change is made. So then we go down to the 25%, which is on, I have that. So if this requires more than 25%, then they would have to make the sign conforming.
So
Correct.
cleaning and painting and those types of things, that does not require a permit.
Or change on the message. So I talked to 2 sign companies today that said 25% is a little bit low based on the age of a sign. So if a sign's been depreciated for 15 years, it could be $1,000 value. And then paint, is $100 a gallon almost for good outdoor sign paint.
Sure, and if you're painting a sign, we don't require a permit for that.
But what we're talking about is you said the 25%. So if they spend more money fixing the sign up, is my question. I'm thinking of signs that have been there for a while that we want them to clean up, but if they're going to spend, if the sign's worth $1,000 and they're going to spend $500, then they have to get a permit and remove the sign, correct?
So only for those activities that would require a permit, so structural. If you're cleaning the sign, or if you're changing the the letters, as you mentioned on the sign face, or you're painting a sign, none of those things require a permit.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to change the letters. You're going to buy a whole new plastic piece that fits in that slot. And that's more than maybe the original sign. So that would not require a permit, or it doesn't take into account the 25%.
No, so only for those activities that you are required to permit, and that's something structural, or if you want to raise the height, if you want to lower the height, those types of things. That work, that calculated work that you have to provide in order to calculate the permit fee, that's when you have to apply for a permit. But if you're just doing maintenance, those are not required to get a permit.
Perfect. And then on the 20.38.070, the abandoned sign, number F, did we add a time frame into that? I don't see it. I might be blind.
So we define abandoned signs, I believe, up in the front. So yeah, abandoned signs under 20.38.020 definitions. An abandoned sign. I'm sorry?
You know what page that is?
It should be page 2. So it's the very first section, well, the second section, under abandoned sign, and it's 180 days.
What's that? Perfect. All right. Thank you, Jeff. And I might have. Oh, nope, that was it. Any other questions for City Manager Jeff Knighton or staff? Councilmember McDowell.
So, explain a little bit more about this. So if there's an abandoned sign, does that mean it's laying on the ground or it's thrown in the alley or the business is gone? The sign is still up? Would that be abandoned sign?
So what the definition, no, I've lost it. There it is. So what the definition says, an abandoned sign means any sign that no longer identifies or advertises a bona fide business, lessor, service, owner, product, or activity, and or for which no legal owner can be found. A permanent sign is presumed abandoned 180 days after permanent closure of the associated business or enterprise.
So who removes the sign when the business just decides to take out? Does the city remove the sign?
No, private property, the sign would stay there, but when a new business came in after 180 days and they wanted to permit a new sign, that sign would then have to come into compliance with the current regulations.
What are we talking about cost for a permit, for the permits that you would have to?
It depends on the value of the sign.
Okay. So is there any way of allowing or not charging for these permits to encourage the businesses to freshen them up and get them back up and running?
So that would be a policy question that we can discuss further, but what I would tell or what I would say in response to that is staff still needs to do the work to review it.
Right,
So
yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more, I don't know the name of those the cloth ones that blow in the wind. What, is there a special name for those flags?
Yeah, that's what we had in the either blade sign or teardrop sign that we had the very first draft that we've changed in the draft you're considering this evening to be the same as any other temporary sign.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you.
I wanted to clarify, I think Councilmember McDowell, you were asking about if we want them to clean the signs up, and I kind of covered that with Jeff. Basically, there'd be no permit for that if they want to paint the pole and change the lettering on the sign and just clean it up. There'd be no permit for that.
Right.
Yeah. So there wouldn't be a sign permit, but they still might have to get a right-of-way permit, but that's still 25%. Yeah.
Right. Let the city know that what they're doing instead of like in the middle of the night doing it down a dark alley. That type of, forget that I just said that.
Councilmember Peterson.
Just to clarify, in the packet that I'm looking at under the definitions for abandoned sign, it says 365 days after permanent closure, and City Manager Knight, and I believe you indicated 180. So just some clarification on that, please.
Yeah. Let me double check here. So I'm keeping all council's notes on the original version, and look and see.
Yeah, I think we discussed a year.
We did, and you're right. Thank you for pointing that out. It is in the draft that you were looking at. It's 365 days.
Okay.
I'm keeping all my notes on the original so I don't miss anything that you guys have to say through the iterative process. So I apologize for that.
All right. And any more hands? Any other questions? All right, we have a motion and a second to place
Excuse me,
ordinance.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to have a reading of the ordinance, please.
Oh, Donna, may we have a reading of the ordinance number 1985-0322?
Yes, you may. Ordinance number 1985-0322, an ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, repealing chapter 20.38 of the Shelton Municipal Code and enacting a new chapter 20.38 relating to the regulation of temporary and permanent signs.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion and a second to place ordinance number 1985-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, did we have a motion?
Yes, I believe we did.
I didn't mark it down, so.
No, I don't think we did yet.
No.
I marked it off. Okay, may I get a motion, please?
I move to place ordinance number 1985-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to place ordinance number 1985-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. All right. Jeff has another ordinance for us to consider. This one is regarding graffiti abatement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council. So this ordinance is, real quick. So again, city staff has been analyzing proposed updates to the code to ensure clarity and to provide concise regulations intended to address quality of life issues in our community. We have this new proposed code. So this is a new section and not a rewrite of an existing section. And it was presented to or discussed by council at the study session on March 8th earlier this year relating to graffiti in the city. And it identifies graffiti as a nuisance and requires abatement within 20 days following receipt of an abatement notice through our code enforcement department. So what this does is we notify folks if they haven't already seen the graffiti themselves, and we enter into a voluntary correction agreement. And what that correction agreement does is it will help the property owner address these graffiti issues on their property. And we also will have a program through our community service division that allows for the providing of the materials, the paint, in order to address the graffiti, or the labor to take care of the graffiti issue on their property, one or the other. So we'll help people come into compliance with these requirements. That's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Donna, do we have any public comment?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll do this in order. May I have a reading of ordinance number 1986-0322?
Yes. Ordinance number 1986-0322, an ordinance of the city of Shelton, Washington, adding a new chapter 8.80 to the Shelton Municipal Code relating to abatement of graffiti.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I have a motion to place ordinance number 1986-0322 on the April 19th, 2022 action agenda for further consideration.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
Oh, Councilmember Peterson. Hope you're muted.
Apparently I'm very chatty tonight, so bear with me. I still think it's rather hard to take a business or a property owner who's been vandalized and then come back to them and say, and now you need to clean it up and you need to pay for cleaning it up. And I would like us to continue to look for opportunities to incentivize, especially in cases where we know who's created these issues, for them to be responsible in some fashion for that. And I realize that we have some relationships with the courts that come into play with that, but I think it is kind of hard to tell someone who's already feeling victimized that they now have to go, and the same, we'll get to this again with the private camping on private lands, that now it becomes your cost and your burden. That being said, I understand that the city has limited means to encourage and require cleanup of these things, and we recognize that graffiti absolutely is a nuisance. So the other piece of that being under the notice of abatement, because it's written so broadly, I'm wondering, I guess, why we have it written so broadly, because this doesn't necessarily put it on the property owner. It could also be the occupant or the manager, or so if someone's a tenant in a building. And so I think we're getting into some maybe inconsistencies in how we're applying code enforcement and who ultimately is responsible for these costs of cleanup. So that would be one thing. And then the second is under city costs. I'm glad to see that we talk about the community graffiti removal program. But it does seem to me that perhaps there should be some limit to the cost of cleanup so that people have an expectation that if they don't take care of it, you know, there's a cap. And I would expect that the city would be reasonable and get this done as quickly and efficiently as they can for their own sake as well, because it takes city staff time and our own supplies. But it seems odd that we don't have kind of a threshold as we do with most other things, that cost of cleaning up to X amount would then become the responsibility of whomever. So those are the couple of points I wanted to bring up.
I agree with Councilmember Peterson about making victims have to pay for somebody destroying their property. Where would you like, do you have any ideas, Councilmember Peterson, where we would go with this? Should
I think it'd be worth talking with some of our other businesses that maybe have experienced this and seeing if there's any suggestions there. Maybe we could look at expanding the community graffiti removal program, or working with some of the volunteer organizations to set up some specified times to give them some relief so that there is an alternative if that is the case. And then I haven't looked at this yet, but I'm sure we're not the only city that has a graffiti ordinance, so there's likely some other examples that we could take from and look at. But that's something that I'd like to see us try to find a way to mitigate the additional burden on people who have already experienced crime against their property.
Then would you like to make a motion to table this for further discussion for another study session?
I'm comfortable moving forward at this point, but I think that we have a couple of weeks to kind of fine tune this. So I would encourage anyone with suggestions or specific language to forward that to City Manager Knighton for consideration, and we could discuss those items at the next meeting.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Schmidt.
Yeah, Jeff, what is the expectation when there's graffiti on public property? How soon does that need to be abated?
We are not going to give ourselves a 20-day notice of abatement, but that is a regular duty, that we take care of basically every day when we see problems like that. So we hold ourselves to the same standards or higher standards as we would any other property owner.
Got it. I think I understand the concerns, and quite frankly, if somebody tagged my personal private property, it would be frustrating and concerning. But even if there wasn't an ordinance, I would still have to clean it up. I still would want to clean it up. I wouldn't leave it. And it would be my responsibility. It's my property. It's my property right to do that. So, I'm a fan of having some specificity in this and leaving it a little bit vague at times. It's good because, again, if it's a property owner or a tenant, it's whoever is responsible for the residents or the property, right? And again, the city holds itself at a pretty high standard for this because the public's tolerance for graffiti in public spaces is very low. So, and to get to Councilmember McDowell's earlier point, and I fully agree with this, is when people come into our city, we want to portray a clean, safe, open, city, and we have to motivate that process a little bit. And I think the city will take reasonable steps to implement this ordinance as written. Thank you.
Jeff, what are the penalties for somebody caught graffitiing or tagging somebody else's property?
So that is, I believe we had this discussion. So it's malicious mischief, and it is either second degree or third degree, and the basis for those charges is the dollar amount that it costs to repair. So for third degree malicious mischief, it's $750 or less of damage. For second degree, it is over $751. And that's kind of how those two things are differentiated. We looked into this a little bit. after the study session, because I remembered council had some questions about that during the study session. I believe that we have only charged one individual over the last 5 years or so with second degree. The vast majority of these are third degree. Malicious mischief charges, and then it's up to the court what penalties they impose. I believe that's pretty open.
Thank you.
And from what I've observed, and this is just anecdotal, I don't have any data to back this up, but from what I've observed, when we do catch the individuals that are responsible for it, they are held accountable to clean it up and those types of things. The problem is most of the time, unfortunately, those people are not caught.
Thank you. Councilmember McDowell.
I think Councilman Peterson mentioned service organizations maybe helping clean some of this graffiti up off people's sides of their buildings, whatever. I think that's a great idea. The service organizations are always looking for projects to help in the community. And if you absolutely cannot find the person who did the damage, it might make it a little bit, the business owner might be a little bit happier if someone came in and volunteered to help them clean it up. So that's just a thought, service organizations.
Thank you. Any other questions for Jeff? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second to place ordinance number 1986-0322 on April 19, 2022 action agenda for further consideration. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Our first action item is a lease with MACOM. Community Development Director Mark Ziegler.
And
has
Mr.
detailed-
Mayor, as a
What?
point of order, I'm going to be recusing from this as I'm the MACOM Governance Board Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mark, welcome again.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Bringing to you tonight on the action agenda, the lease with MACOM, Mason County 911 operations, which leases 2,472 square feet here in the Civic Center. This is a 3-year lease that is basically rolls over each year. So this pays for square footage lease of the facility, as well as maintenance and operations custodial services that the city supplies to MACOM as they are in our building. And nothing in the lease has changed since the briefing on, let's see, it's been 3/15.
Thank you, Mark. Do we have any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, we do not.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the MACOM facilities lease as presented.
All right. We have a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Comments or questions? We need a 911.
We also need a
Mayor,
second.
who did a second?
Second, Donna.
Thank you.
No comments or questions. We have a motion and a second to approve the MACOM facility lease as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We have another item from Director Ziegler, a resolution
Mr.
about, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, let me bring Councilmember Schmidt or Deputy Mayor Schmidt.
Oh, there he is. All right. We have another item from Director Ziegler, a resolution about proposed annexation petition.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I'm going to share a screen, so I have a graphic up while I speak. This is the consideration of resolution number 1229-0222, which is the consideration of the receipt of notice of intent for petition for annexation for 279.09 acres of residentially zoned, neighborhood residential zone property on the northwest side of Shelton, and the graphic shows you the outline of the parcels. There's 4 parcels here within the thick red line. You'll see Olympic College on my cursor, just to the west, what's Lacrosse Way here, what's commonly referred to as the Mankey subdivision, and Terrace Heights to the southwest of these 4 parcels. This is the first step in consideration of annexation. With approval by the council tonight, then the property owners would file an official petition to consider that annexation, and that would be brought back to the council after the county assessor determines the sufficiency of 60% petition. We have formal notice and that public hearing at a council meeting, and then again, the council consideration. At that time, we would, upon approval, then we would potentially see any consideration of plans for those properties at that point, but we don't have anything certainly submitted to the city at this point without having the annexation even considered by council. So I'm open to any further questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mark. Donna, do we have any public comment?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
May we have a reading of resolution number 1229-0222?
Resolution number 1229-0222, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, accepting a proposed annexation for the Peacock Ridge area pursuant to RCW 35A.14.120.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 1229-0222, accepting a proposed annexation petition of the Peacock Ridge area.
Second.
All right, exciting. Anybody have any comments or questions to make to staff? Nobody. Well, I think this is very exciting. How long has it been since we've done an annexation, Mr. Ziegler?
Well, the last annexation was a few years ago. We annexed part of the marina and Oakland Bay as well as Eagle Point, but prior to that, it's been a number of years.
All right. I know we won't have homes overnight, but it's really nice to have some new homes in our future. All right. So we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 1229-022, accepting a proposed annexation petition of the Peacock Ridge area. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. City engineer Ken Gill has information for us regarding the project award for Western Gateway.
Good evening, council members. It's good to see you out there on a sunny Tuesday evening. Hope you get out and enjoy some of that sunshine and those cherry blossom trees that are out in full bloom today in Shelton. So this is a big occasion for Shelton. This is our first big CIP project in a long time. So a little bit of history. Back on March 2nd, Donna helped me open 4 bids. The low bid was Miles Resources at $2.5 million. It ranged to a high of $3 million. So with the blessing of our funding partners, TIB pays for most of all the asphalt, about half of the sidewalk, and the city funding the water main with some minor budget amendments that keep us within our fiscal fund balances. We can make this project go. So what's happened between now and the time I talked to you last time is you've probably seen our public works crews taking down a big redwood tree there at 12th. You've probably seen our crews today. They took out one set of the tracks going across Railroad Avenue. That's to make way for the new water main and the new pavement and the new sidewalk. So you've probably seen our franchisees, Cascade Natural Gas and Lumen, out there potholing to make sure that their facilities are out of the way for our improvements. So, and you may have seen PD3 out there putting out some street lighting and getting to move some poles. So use that in the future. Since Mark's sharing his screen tonight, I'm sorry, I've got to share just one quick thing that our crews were out there doing today. And if you're out looking at 8th and Railroad, you probably saw a big square cut in the asphalt. And our guys are getting ready to pothole tomorrow, a 14-inch AC line to figure out that the parts make sure we got the right size and diameter, and Miles has that. So it's ready to go when we get all those parts and are ready to go. That's all I had to present. I'm really excited about it, and I'm looking forward to getting started.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments?
Mr. Mayor, I had a couple of public comments, a few actually, that were emailed to me and left me on voicemail, and I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. We have received an email from Mr. Dale Campbell that was forwarded to each of you that is opposed to removing the railroad tracks. And we also have an email from Mr. Cameron Settlemeyer, I believe is his last name, also opposed, that was emailed to me today. And make sure both of you had those. I also received an email from Cheryl Stewart, a voicemail from Cheryl Stewart that mentioned that she believes removing the tracks was a poor decision. And those are the only emailed or only communications I have received. But I wanted to make sure that you were aware and had seen those communications or heard about the last one, as I just mentioned.
Thank you, Jeff. And do we have any other public comment?
Let me take a look, Mr. Mayor. No, we don't, sir.
May we have a reading of resolution number 1230-2222?
Yes, resolution number 1230-0222. A resolution of the Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to approve a public works contract with Miles Resources LLC for completion of the Western Gateway project.
Thank you, Donna. Do we have a motion?
I
Move to adopt.
Resolution number 1234-0322 as presented.
It's actually 1230. I think you said 1234.
It's the number 3. It is resolution number 1230-0222.
I'm on the wrong one. Wonderful. All right. Do we have any questions or comments for staff?
I'll second that motion.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Do we have any questions for staff? I got off track.
It's all right.
Okay, Council or Deputy Mayor Schmidt.
Yeah, yes, been seeing the questions come in about the track removal. City Manager Knighton, would you mind kind of just stepping us through one more time, kind of the project itself and what to expect, what's coming?
Sure. So how far back do I want to go here? Several years ago, the Simpson rail line was shut down. I believe that was in 2015. And in 2018, Simpson Timber approached the city before I arrived here with an offer to dedicate or sell for $1 the rail line, the private rail line. When I got here in 2019, we began negotiations, and those negotiations took a significant amount of time for dedication of the rail line property, along with some other Simpson-owned properties around the community. And that culminated in September, I believe August or September of 2020, when City Council accepted the rail line donation and the several other properties around town from Simpson Timber. And with that, during that discussion, we had discussed and proposed publicly that rail line could wouldn't at the time, it wasn't a certainty, but could be used as a multimodal trail project that runs from First Street, right next to Neyland Park, all the way out to Highway 101. Some of that just west of Pacific Court is in the county's jurisdiction, but we do own the rail line property. So as we were beginning to consider how we would move that project forward. And it's a multi-year project. That's not all going to happen at once. But when we begin to consider how we were going to move that project forward, we made sure we had discussions with every entity that may have authority over the rail line. And that's the Utilities Commission with the state of Washington, Washington State Department of Transportation, the Federal Railroad Administration, just to make sure that we were on the up and up and wouldn't have any concerns. And in fact, WashDOT has offered us, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, on the number, $100,000 fully grant funded. There is no city match that will assist us in taking out the crossing at First Street because they are in favor of removing that crossing. We did understand that there was a local group that had a lease with Simpson Rail Company or Simpson Timber Company, excuse me. But that before the transfer occurred to the city, that Simpson had canceled that lease. So when the city took over the property, we were approached about initiating a new lease. And we informed, and I spoke with council about that at the time. And we informed that group in December of 2020 that the city was moving forward with a different option, that we were not interested in pursuing a further lease. So moving forward now with these new projects in Railroad Avenue, that is an area that has been number one on your capital improvement program for transportation for a number of years. And we wanted to make sure that we added amenities to the community that moving forward, people have told us that they wanted. I believe since the late 90s, the community has said one of their priorities as far as parks and trails and recreation and open space are concerned is further development of trail access. Very high priority in all the surveys that we've done, including for the most recent PROS plan that council adopted, I believe, late last year. So we're providing those amenities and making sure that we are budgeting and saving and allocating resources to provide the amenities that the community has said that they would like to see. So the tracks coming out now are just in Railroad, in the street in Railroad. Long term, and as I said, multi-phase, multi-year project to implement the Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails program. We will start segment by segment as we can afford, producing a multimodal trail that the community can enjoy for many years out to a major transportation link at 101 that will it'll provide a great amenity for the folks that live here and the folks that will live here in the future. So that's kind of a very high level look at what the project looks like over time, and one that we're pretty excited about.
All right, Councilmember Gutierrez.
Yes, I wanted to thank Ken for starting the project and also for keeping us on track to our vision that we had back in 2017 about bringing more foot traffic downtown and making this part of our commitment to having beautiful open spaces connected and connecting the city. So just wanted to put that out there. This has been in the plan for a long time, and it's just going to be an excellent opportunity for residents of the city to enjoy their neighborhoods and to increase foot traffic and business downtown. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions for City Manager Knight and our staff? I want to say that I had walked those tracks a week ago Sunday, and it's a pretty dangerous area, overgrown, lots of places to hide, holes in the ground. I'm really looking forward to this project and getting some trails. I'd like to see them all the way to 101 tomorrow, but I know that's not going to happen. But this has been years in the making, and we've been talking about it since I've been on the council, and for 4 years now, actually, here in about a week.
Yes.
So thank you, Ken, and those who came before you for getting this project going. And if there's no other questions, We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1234-0322 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? The motion carries. Our last action item is a bargaining agreement with customer service. Administrative Service Director Michelle Sutherland has details for us tonight.
Mr. Mayor,
What?
Mr. Mayor, we still had number 4. That one, this is the engineering contract amendment. Also presented by Ken. It's resolution 1234-0322.
Oh, I thought I did that one. Well, I'm way off track tonight. Okay, well, that's we have another one from Ken, a resolution to accept a contract amendment. You're right. I'm way off. Ken.
That's okay, Councilmember Onisco. If that's the only mistake you make today, you're doing great.
That's about
Look
the
at the
third.
same name, so you're doing fine. That's my fault. So with the TIB money and the federal funding that we're using comes strings. We got to make sure that we're doing the right tests. We're checking wage rates. And the firm that's done the design is planning to do the construction management. This allows your engineering staff to swell temporarily to serve the need of this project and then shrink after the project is complete. So I don't have any more changes from when we presented this to you the first time, but I recommend that you approve it. That's all I had to present.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't, Mr. Mayor.
Maybe we have a reading of resolution number 1234-0322.
Resolution number 1234-0322. A resolution of the Council of the City of Shelton, Washington, authorizing the city manager to approve supplemental agreement number 4 to the professional services agreement with Ray and Osborne Incorporated, titled Access Shelton Phase 4, West Downtown, Western Gateway.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome.
We have a motion and a sec. Do we comments or questions? We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1234.
Mr. Mayor, point of order, we need a motion. So I'll move to adopt resolution number 1234-0322 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 1234-0322 as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Opposed? Motion carries. Too much for me to read tonight. All right. Now, our last action item is a bargain agreement with Customer Service Administrative Service Director Michelle Sutherland has detailed.
Good evening, Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Council. Bringing to you the last bargaining agreement, which is a culmination of about 9 months of work between last year and the first quarter of this year. It's an agreement between the city and the Woodworkers Guild, which represents customer service employees. Again, major changes from the previous 3-year agreement include state and federal updates to language reflecting current regulations, development of a new salary schedule based on a market analysis in comparable cities, updating the current vacation schedule to reflect current city policy, and adding Juneteenth as a city holiday. For the budget and fiscal information, for 2022, there was a general wage increase of 4%, which mirrors the rest of the city staff. For 2023, the wage increase for this guild will be 3.25%, and the third year of the agreement, it is 3%. We have an additional medical premium contribution of $50 in 2022, 2023, and 2024. So staff would move that you would approve the agreement between the City of Shelton and the IAM-AW Woodworkers, representing all full-time and part-time employees in customer service, excluding supervisors, professional, confidential, and clerical employees for the period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Michelle. Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't,
have a-
Mr. Mayor.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the agreement between the city of Shelton and the IAMAW as presented.
Second,
Right. Comments or questions? All right, we have a
Thank you.
motion and a sec, I'm sorry. Did
Thank
somebody
you.
speak?
Mhm.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agreement between the city of Shelton and the IAMAW woodworkers representing a full-time and part-time employees in customer service excluding supervisors, professional, confidential, and clerical employees for the period of January 1, 2022 through December 31, 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are at the end of our rope here. Jeff, do you have city manager report for us?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. So two things. The first, well, three things, but first thing is on April 16th, we will be promoting with our partners at the Chamber of Commerce a downtown cleanup, which is spring cleaning, an opportunity for people to get out and pressure wash and power wash and clean and trim and all those things without having to go through the time to apply for a right-of-way permit. So any work that needs to be done, please head on out there and get that done. I believe it's between 9 and 3, if I remember correctly.
And just to thank you, Jeff, if I may, thank you to the Rotary Club who's already agreed to come out and do some sprucing on that day.
Absolutely, that's great. We can make downtown look as great as it can possibly look when the sun comes out, which I think we're all thankful for this time of year. Second thing I wanted to mention was the pilot program that we've been talking about for quite some time with SC Johnson and our partners at Mason County and Mason County Garbage for plastics recycling. The first route, which should be displayed both on our website and to mailers and on our Facebook page, is starting April 27th. The second route will start May 11th. So that's pretty exciting. Councilmember McDowell?
I don't mean to interrupt, but just to give a plug for the Lions Club, they will be out that day also helping. So we've got some circuit service organizations coming out to do that.
That's great to hear. The more people that can participate in that, the better. Get
Yep.
everybody outside and hopefully in the sunshine, fingers crossed. And lastly, I wanted to go through your looking ahead. So next Tuesday on the 12th, we'll be talking about the animal control ordinance again. So that should be a robust discussion. I'm looking forward to that. And on your agenda on April 19th, you'll hear the items that you heard this evening again on your action agenda. And we also have several new items with an update to the municipal code that we've been working on for quite some time for the neighborhood residential zone. Mark and his team have done a lot of work on that code with our stakeholders group that has participated in looking at that from different perspectives and making sure we're considering all the various factors that go into that code. We'll also have a discussion about the YMCA and the purchase and sale agreement for that piece of property that was contemplated in the lease agreement that the council entered into in 2018. And what else? We have a dump truck purchase for council to consider that was budgeted in 2022, but that's a new piece of equipment, and an interlocal agreement with Mason Transit Authority for their partnership with the Western Gateway, which we're really looking forward to. Lastly, just going through the end of the month, on the 26th, we'll have a discussion about the youth representative to City Council on April 26th. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for the city manager, Knighton? Nobody's jumping up and down. All right. Our next council meeting will be on Tuesday, April 19th at 6 p.m. We also have a study session April 12th at 6 p.m. This meeting is adjourned at 7:14 p.m.